What's going on, guys? It's me, Zach, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. So in this one, I'm going to go over the ideal draft strategy, or sort of some tips I found when drafting in a snake draft from picks 7 through 9. Most of this is going to assume PPR scoring in a 12-team league, but it's all pretty consistent, and I'll touch base on how things differ a little bit if you're in smaller leagues. So yeah, just want to take a minute again, real quick, to thank everybody for all the support we've been getting. Last time I checked, we were at like 168 subscribers. I set what I thought was a pretty unrealistic goal of 200 by the start of the season, and I really think we might get there. So that's really awesome. So really, thank you all for all the support. It's pretty crazy. Couple other updates. The website is officially up. There's not a whole lot there right now, but there's at least links to all the videos and a forum, and I'll be sure to be getting my rankings and auction values and tier lists up there by the end of the week, I believe. So I think we'll be updating that with weekly rankings and all that throughout the season. So do check that out. It's www.realsteelffb.com. I'll link that in the description as well. But really excited to have that going. If you are new to the channel, and thank you so much for stopping by. I hope I can help you out and hope you learned something from watching the video, and hope we can help you have a fun and successful season here. So if you do get anything out of any of these videos, please do take a moment to like and subscribe and click the bell. We give you 3 videos every week for free. So thank you for stopping by again, and really appreciate all the support from all of you guys. So yeah, with that, let's get going into the video. Starting off with rounds 1 through 2, normally I tend to find myself targeting either Dalvin Cook or Joe Mixon with my first pick, 7 through 9 here. I do often find myself taking Justin Jefferson if he slips here. And every now and then I see Eckler here, especially with pick 7. It's pretty rare, but if he's there, I think Eckler is a pretty automatic pick there at pick 7 or 8 or 9 if you happen to have it and he makes it there. But obviously, I'm very okay with you taking Justin Jefferson here at pick 7, 8, or 9. He's my number 1 ranked receiver on the board, so getting him here is pretty good value. I'm very happy with that. But regardless of that, I'm not really a huge fan of any of the receivers you'd be getting at these spots in round 2. Those would be picks 15 to 8 or 17. So not a huge fan of any of those. So I generally find myself trying to get Swift, Kamara, Chubb, or Barkley. I'd throw Aaron Jones into that list as well. I love all those guys. I'm really high on all of them. But if Kelsey does make it to you in round 2, for me, he's an auto pick unless you've already gotten Justin Jefferson in round 1, or any receiver in round 1 if you choose to go that way. I have a really hard time finding value at the running back position in rounds 3 to 5. There's not many guys I'm very high on, and especially with this pick in a snake draft, I don't find that you're really getting any of them at a value with either of the picks you end up taking them at. So as entertaining as it might be to take a Jefferson Kelsey stack, or not stack, but the start of Jefferson and Kelsey, I just find that it really puts you behind the 8 ball at the running back position. You end up taking players you're not even high on because you just feel like you have that positional need, and I don't really want to put myself into that sort of hole. So I think that it's really, really important that you leave the first 2 rounds with at least 1 running back. And even though I love Jefferson and that, I almost find that I end up with a better team if I go running back here. With that being said, I would still take Justin Jefferson with the first pick if he makes it there. I'm going to pick 7 through 9, but like I said, you have to leave leave the first 2 rounds with a running back. Otherwise, it's just going to be really hard in the next 3 rounds. Moving on to rounds 3 through 5, I generally find myself trying to start the first 2 rounds going running back, and then I try to leave the next 3 rounds with the best receiver on the board in each of them. The caveat to that would be if you can get a value on Pitts or Darren Waller. I consider value to be getting Kyle Pitts in the 4th round or getting Darren Waller in the 5th. But otherwise, I'm targeting the receivers I have listed here in each of those rounds, pretty much in order, but obviously you can use, obviously the rankings will be up on the site. You can use those. Should have those up by the end of the week. But get your guy. If there's a guy you like more than somebody I put here, I'm not against taking them. So just from a positional standpoint, I find that it's really hard to get good running backs in these rounds. So I like to put myself in a spot where I don't need them. Like I've touched on earlier, I think that if you need another running back after the first 2 rounds, it's really hard to find a good value here. So guys I've found myself taking in these rounds. In round 3, I've taken Ezekiel Elliott and James Conner quite a bit. But with one of these sort of later half of the 3rd round picks, pretty often both of these guys are gone, and then I'm not going to reach for Etienne or Breece Hall in the 3rd. So that's sort of the risk of especially going into round 3 with no running back. It's often for me that I can't get another one in round 3 either. So then I'm going through the first 3 rounds and I don't have a running back, and then I'm basically forcing myself into a 0 RB strategy, which I don't love. just really hard to succeed doing that. In round 4, I do find myself taking Etienne. I even have found myself reaching on Breece Hall in cases where I feel myself needing him. It is quite a bit of a reach to take him in round 4, but like I've said, it's just with the draft pick you have here, you're either going to have to reach for Breece Hall or hope he makes it back to you in the 5th, and he's just not going to. So even having A.J. Dillon here as a 5th round pick, that's quite the reach, but I've had a couple of instances where I feel like I need a running back in round 5, and he's the best guy on the board for me. But really, none of these guys I'm super high on at the pick I'd be taking them at. So it's just the more drafts I've done, I've found that I don't want to be taking a running back in rounds 3 through 5, especially at this draft slot. So I think that really you do want to leave the first 2 rounds with 2 running backs. And if you do leave with one, just hope you can get a value over the next 3 rounds at one of these guys. I do find that Connor and Etienne are the 2 I can get the most likely in either round 3 or 4. So that generally ends up being guys I end up having pretty high exposure to. But really, it's just super important to me to get that second running back as early as possible because there's obviously a steep drop off at the position, and the draft spot you're picking at, it's just really hard to get value at the running back spot here. Moving into round 6 through 9, sort of at this point, your draft spot doesn't matter too much. Players start going pretty significantly further, either before or after their ADPs, so it starts mattering a bit less where you actually pick in the draft. But in those 4 rounds, I generally find myself drafting my quarterback, and I generally just want to sort of wait for value because there's so many quarterbacks I love in those 4 rounds, so I don't really see value in reaching for anybody. The guys I do find myself leaving with most consistently are Jalen Hurts or Kyler Murray in the 6th round, or Russell Wilson or Dak in the 7th round. Really, if I get beyond those guys, I do find myself waiting even a little bit longer and going for Trey Lance. But the player I have the most of this season is Jalen Hurts, followed by Russell Wilson at the quarterback position. So those are the guys I love the most. But like I said, there's plenty of value in these rounds specifically. I don't find myself taking much of Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, or Patrick Mahomes just because I don't think they're worth the draft pick you're taking them at. And I have all of these guys, Hurts, Kyler, Russ, and even Dak ahead of Lamar this season. So Dak and Lamar are really close, but they all go after him in drafts, so I find them to be the best values. I also find that in rounds 6 through 9, a lot of people tend to draft a tight end in this round, and for me, it's just not worth it. Streaming waiver wire options are often just as good as these mid-tier tight ends that get drafted on draft day, so there's not really a whole lot of value in drafting them here, especially because there's so many players I still like drafting here. I also find myself trying to get more running backs here. These are the rounds where I actually find myself being able to get value and also not really minding whether or not I reach for a player. I love drafting guys like Chase Edmonds, A.J. Dillon, Kareem Hunt, and Tony Pollard here. I'm going to throw Ramondre Stevenson into this mix here. And maybe even a Josh Jacobs or if he slips here. News of Kenyon Drake being cut by the Raiders makes me a little more optimistic on Jacobs this season. Not a whole lot, but I think he's going to get a little bit more receiving work, and I just don't factor Amir Abdullah into that offense very much. So I think Jacobs has some upside if he slips here. But yeah, these are the rounds I find myself just trying to get depth at that running back position. And there's a lot of late round wide receivers I love, so I tend to find myself not necessarily taking them here, especially because I very consistently leave round 5 with 3 of them. But maybe I'll take 1 or 2 more receivers in these 4 rounds. But in general, I try to get a quarterback, 2 running backs, and a receiver during these 4 rounds. But really, it's just taking the best player available at this point and trying to get some depth, especially at the running back position. So yeah. Just a couple other things to note if you have a pick like this. The thing I've noticed that's sort of the most glaring to me and something that was a little shocking to me is as tempting as it might be to start your draft with a Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb start. Because obviously that's super sexy. You've got probably 2 top 5 receivers or fringe top 5 receivers. I end up hating my teams if I do that because I end up feeling extremely forced to just reach at running back over the next 3 rounds. And I end up getting guys I just don't really like or taking guys I like but way ahead of where I like to take them. So I find that the rest of my team after those first 2 picks is just playing catch up at the running back position because I have to. So I think it's really important that you get at least one running back in the first 2 rounds, even if there's value at Jefferson, Travis Kelce, or Jefferson CeeDee, or Jefferson, even Jefferson Stephon Diggs. I don't think I could make myself do it. So I think that even if that happens, you just have to take the best running back on the board at one of those 2 picks. It might hurt a little bit, but I promise that down the road it's going to help a lot. Something that I find that helps is to before you go to your draft, just go through each round and look around where your pick is and just note how many players at each position you like. So for me, at pick 7 through 9, there are really one receiver that I'd like, and that's Justin Jefferson. There's a lot of running backs, and then in round 2, there's really no receivers that I like, and there's a lot of running backs. And then in rounds 3, 4, and 5, there's a lot of receivers I like taking at ADP, and not so many running backs. So it's a good way for me to see that if I take 2 receivers early on, I'm not going to get the guys I want in rounds 3 through 5 because I can't take receivers there. So I would do that same thing for you. There might be completely different positions that you like. You might love the running backs in round 3 and hate the running backs in round 1. And you just want to go Jefferson and then get Nick Chubb and then get running backs in round 3 and stuff. So it can be different for you, but for me, I just find that there's just not value for the running back position in those later, or in rounds 3 through 5, so I have to get one early. Another thing to note is with the pick 7 through 9, you can play the ADP game. So I touched on this a little bit, but in general, if there's 2 players you like on your first pick, so say you like, say you love Aaron Jones and Joe Mixon, but you have Aaron Jones higher than Joe Mixon with your first round pick, I would still take Joe Mixon with that first round pick because Aaron Jones has a higher likelihood of making it back to you in that second round. So that's sort of what I mean by playing the ADP game. And then the other thing I'll note is that every time I've played the Hero RB game, for those of you who don't know, Hero running back is where you take one really good running back to sort of anchor your running back room and then just go pretty much scrubs the rest of your running backs. I'm actually okay with the strategy if you have a top 3 running back. I find that even top 3 is sketchy because I have injury concerns with McCaffrey. So really I almost find it to only work with Austin Eckler or Jonathan Taylor, or really only feeling comfortable with it there. Because I think you need that one running back to be an absolute lock, to be a monster. And you're not going to get that with Mixon or Dalvin Cook. You're going to get consistent quality production, but they're not going to be able to carry a running back room if you don't really even have a solid RB2. So at this spot, I wouldn't recommend it. So another reason why I think you have to get a running back in those first 2 rounds, and then try and get a second one in rounds 3 to 5, or just take 2 in the first 2 rounds. So yeah. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter at RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.